Hello, everyone. I'm Patty Knox. Like I said, I'm the Regional Business Development Manager with Cordant Health Solutions in the Pacific Northwest. And it's such an honor to be here today. And one of the things before I introduce my colleagues, just to kick it off, I think I've been in behavioral health in this space for 18 years in the Pacific Northwest, the majority of the time in pharmaceuticals, and the last 8 selling injectable antipsychotic for severe mental illness. And I have been with Cordant Health Solutions since October. So I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary. And I think that most of us get into this space because we really care about the patient for whatever reason it is, that they do well in their treatment, right? And recently there's become more financial accountability for mostly for all of you with payers and with government grants and funds to produce results that show that the programs actually are working and helping patients maintain their sobriety and their mental health status. So we're hoping that we put together a good and thoughtful presentation for you today. Also with me is Sue Jacoby, our Regional Account Manager in Oregon. And we've got Scott, who introduced himself, and Murray as well. So Murray is my joint presenter. I really hope that he can at least join via audio, because I could do the whole presentation, but I think that it's going to be a lot better if he can join me on this. So
Patty, we could get
I've been able to get in. Can you hear me, Sue?
Yeah.
I mean, Patty.
Great. I can. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, so that's our team. And yes, following is our presentation. So I will hand that over to Murray to jump on to the next slide. Thanks, Tia.
Yeah, so we
did the poll without you, Murray.
Thank you very much for doing that. Thanks for putting up with our impromptu tech jumping here, but I will get through this together. I think after the last year, we can do anything together, so this will be great. So we were excited to have I think 24 of you respond to our pre-session survey results. And actually, I think this is an old deck, so we might not have the latest survey results on it, Scott. But why don't you move forward? And I think, yeah, this is a very old deck.
Can you share your screen or not?
I can't. I'm on my phone. So I sent out a deck this morning. Would it be possible to grab that?
Did you send it to me?
I didn't send it to you, Tia. I sent it to Scott, to everyone on my team.
Right. Here, Tia, I've got it. I will send it to you.
What a team.
No, this just makes me feel so much better, Murray, because you guys are the internet EHR people, and you're having internet problems.
I know.
It has nothing to do with EnSoftek. So
there's no one immune to this. So
no.
Yeah, that's why we all have to work together to get through this stuff. So
yeah.
Making my point for me.
Yeah, I love it. And you know, if you don't feel bad, I had to get on my phone because my internet went away yesterday when I was meeting with Senator Wyden's staff. So that was fun. That was fun times. Yeah.
Nice. That's a great meeting to lose internet.
Yeah, you're not alone.
I have. Do you want me to share, or you're going to do it, Tia? Or
just send it to Tia. She has it. She should have it.
Great.
You have it, Tia?
Great.
I'm ready to share too. So just let me know.
Oh, so much sharing going on.
Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Yeah, of course, you know, Murphy's Law kicks in right when you want it to. So.
Nope. No pun intended.
So we were able to send out a pre-session survey to get a sense of where people who are attending today are in their journey on providing a continuum of care for their patients. And there's no right or wrong answer. Everyone's at a different place, but it's always nice to see where you are compared to your peers. And there's good learning to be done there. So that was our motivation for that. And we've got good response. So as soon as we get the slides up, we'll be able to share some of the data with you. And that is the slide I'm looking for. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the first question is, how easy it is to understand where individuals are within your organization's continuum of care. And if you would show that, it's really great to see that the numbers are off to the left there, that it's either that the majority of it's somewhat easy to understand this. It's great to see that level of digital maturity with your systems where you're able to see that. I'm sure there's always work to be done, but it's great to see that there was no one in the very hard results and that it's moving up to the left. So that's great news. Could I get the next slide, please? So what data sources are you using to track that continuum of care? And we had several options there. And again, this is great news. This time we're off to the right more. And what that means is no one is on paper only. There's still people out there doing that. And if you're one of those, that's fine. We're more than happy to talk with you about that or point you to someone that can help you get off paper. But the majority of you are into digital systems, and some are still relying on a combination of EHR and email, but even then, a large number on EHR only, which is good news. You have one source of truth that you're using to track continuum of care, and that's great. So you don't have multiple data sources where you're trying to do that. Next slide, please. And are you able to view integrated services like lab results in your EHR solution? And again, that number, the majority of you are. So those of you with EHR systems are. There's a couple that are not, and a few that it's not applicable, but again, the majority are. And I think we're going to see that in the next couple slides here as well. If we could move to the next slide. Toxicology results. Do you use those to better understand your individual's readiness to move to the next level of care? Again, the majority of you do. Great news. It's a data point that's important, and to access it right inside your EHR system makes it that much more convenient. And as you provide services to your clients. Next slide, please. Thank you. Are you able to demonstrate program success as people move through defined levels of risk? Again, yes. It's great. I think there's probably a variety of ways, and we'll see that again later on, how people are doing this, but that it's being done is huge. And then from there, it's a process of understanding how that's working and optimizing the results. So you continue to find new ways to refine, find those processes. What methods are you using to track that? Those are great points for collaboration with other providers through organizations like OCBH. It's a great place to do that. I know at Cordant and at Dr. Cloud EHR, we are always looking for best practices and talking with our clients about those as well. So it's great to see that's an area that's adopted, and we're in that journey forward towards better ways of doing that. Can we see the next slide, please? And then what data points are you using to determine that? If you could hit the next, this is going to animate out. We aggregated the results that we got into the general top 10 areas of data points that people are using. And, attendance, assessment tools, and UA results are right there at the very top. Very practical ways of doing that, but there's a variety of different clinical reports that were mentioned, progress through your treatment goals, self-reporting, tracking life changes, and then going outside of your organization, understanding, recent hospitalization or emergency room visits. How does that play into understanding the treatment plan and where people are falling off, and court and treatment compliance? So you can see that the continuum of care here is not just within an organization, but it's moving across multiple organizations, and that's good to see. Here's a really telling one. How often do you think about your EHR and wish it would do more or something different or work more smoothly? To be honest, we expected to see, I think that that people would be thinking about this all the time, and it was nice to see that while people do think about this quite a bit, it was a fairly broad response to this, and a lot of people that don't think about this very often. So I hope that means that technology is becoming more transparent to your ability to providing care. That it's a tool that you use. It's not between you and your clients any longer, but it's in the right place in your care continuum, that it is enabling you to provide better care and not getting in the way of that. And that's the goal for any system that you're incorporating into your organization to provide treatment and improve your care continuum, is that it becomes, there's an adoption period, yes, but as you come into familiarity with it, that it moves to the side and actually is increasing the quality of care and not decreasing it. And that's what we're all striving for here.
You know what, Murray, I was going to interject, is that I think that people are not thinking about their EHR as a good thing. That means it's working really great, right? It's just that, like, the other way of thinking about it. If they're not thinking about it, that means they're like satisfied and happy, right?
I agree with you 100%, and that's a good sign, and that's what we're looking for. And then what's at the top of your wish list for your EHR? That is the next slide, and as you can see, there is a very broad range of wishes here, and there was some clustering around data services. You know, the ability to have better reporting tools, better access to data visualization. That was a big cluster. And then, of course, you know, always looking for a better, more intuitive user interface for using your EHR, better training, and of course, lowering costs. That would be, we're always looking for ways to do that, and making that the investment that you do make provides a return on your investment that makes it worth your while and increases your capacity to do things. The one that we're really still working on is in the lower right there. I don't know if you caught that at all, but we're really working on our ability to clone and 3D print staff. That's on our product roadmap, but I don't see that coming out for a while. But it's something that we feel your pain, and the challenge in keeping and attracting staff is huge. And if we could clone them for you, we would do that. So we'll look into that and keep you posted on that. So we're going to be talking about the continuum of care. We thought we'd tell you more about that, and Patty's going to jump in and give you some definitions.
Yeah, so when we started working on this presentation, I didn't know what Marie and Scott were talking about with a continuum of care, because I had always, you know, in my previous roles have talked about continuity of care with providers, and it's what seems to keep people up at night. You know, if anything does, is like one of these things is what's happened to my patient is they're moving across multiple providers. You know, if they're in the hospital, if they're in jail, they're, you know, what happened to them. It's just, you know, one of the top 3 things that I hear from providers and leadership at different centers and clinics when talking about the patient, because it's, you know, throughout the United States, it's one of the top 3 things I believe that has been broken. And will it ever be fixed? Probably not, but we can get closer and closer, and that's, you know, the hope that we can have some good discussion about it today. But just, you know, you can see the 2 definitions right there. I was actually talking to somebody at a clinic up in Washington. I said, we're doing a presentation on continuum of care, because it's not a term I usually use, but I'm trying to say it now. And she's like, oh, we call that continuity of care. So I think people use it interchangeably. So I just wanted to like throw up that slide with those 2 different definitions. Next slide.
So continuity of care, continuum of care, modern continuum of care. I mean, what do you think of when you hear that? You know, Patty, what do you think of when you see that term? What comes to mind for you?
Well, I think about a patient, like I said, is you know, I've worked at places where some counties, like there's a county in in Washington that I know of that has really good pulse on their patients. If somebody who has mental illness goes into jail, they're notified right away. And I think it's getting more broad where more clinicians, providers, leaderships are hearing like where their patients are ending up. And then they actually have a case manager that will go pick that patient up from jail when they're released and bring them right back to the clinic where they can start getting into services and decide which programs are working best for other people who have been incarcerated. That's like a really great example of what I have heard some of the best continuum of care. But so many times it's like, we don't know what happened to that, person. I asked a nurse recently, I said, how'd your patients do during COVID? Did you get most of them back? And she was kind of telling me where everybody was. And they had 90% back, 10 people were missing. They had no idea what happened to them. And then they knew, so many people overdosed. And so it's those types of things that sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. But what can we do to make it better?
Right. And so if you would hit the next slide, I mean, some people, when they think of modern continuum of care, they imagine something like this. It's a fantastic journey that sounds great, but maybe oversold and underdelivered, and it's hard to do. How would we possibly get there? It's so big. I'm not sure how we can do that. Tia, if you hit the next one, or it could be something that looks like a frustrating yet maybe fun board game where you're taking a couple steps back and then you hit a slide and you take for four slides back, and it's a challenging or maybe even frustrating process that's may seem unattainable. But what we'd really like to do is break it down and think of what are the benefits from going and striving for a continuum of care for your patients. If we can move to the next slide, and there's a couple animations in here, so if you hit them one at a time, I think we're just trying to break it down by the different benefits for the different personas in the process. For clinicians, having the ability to having the data to help with their decision-making capabilities, or even maybe suggest treatment plans and guide them through the continuum of care, and having the most data to possibly do that. On the operations side, I'm gonna actually give up and put my glasses on because my phone is actually smaller than I can read. And thank you. We're all working here together. But your effective care coordination and improved information exchange, definitely, and more personalization, but also finding those ways to make your process more efficient. And if your institution or organization isn't operational healthy, it's very much harder to provide a smooth continuum of care for your individuals or your clients. And for executives, having the latest information that gives you a full picture of where you're at as an organization from a variety of perspectives, whether it's clinical views or a revenue view, but helping to anticipate the needs of your clients and also to forecast where you're at financially so you can make the right decisions at the right time for your organization. But all three of these things actually are supporting of the most important benefit of this. And if you hit the next, if you click on that, Tia, it is really the benefits that we're all here for, which are the best, the continuum of care benefits for individuals. A smooth, connected continuum of care really prevents them from falling through the cracks. It provides faster and higher quality of care, and actually empowers the individual to participate and engage in the continuum of care in a way that might have seemed less personal or less engaging in the past. And if we can move forward to the next slide, please. So how do we get to a continuum of care? And I think, from the survey of those who participate, it seems like you're well on the way towards it. So this may be repetitive for some of you, but really what does the continuum of care look like within the walls of your organization? And the thing that is stretching across the bottom is how an EHR system can help connect those points for you. So if you could click a couple of times, Tia, thank you. You know, from all the way from referral to discharge, having that continuum of a system that connects all those points together for your staff and for your team and for your operations, that makes it an integrated, seamless continuum of care that doesn't allow people to fall through the cracks. It tracks where they are. In some of the data points that we saw that people were saying they used to understand the continuum of care, it was great to see that some of you are using automated reports from your EHR that is saying, hey, this client is this many days away from their next transition in care. So not only understanding exactly where you're at or where your patient is at, but predicting where they may be going next, or understanding what might be anticipating the needs of your patients and staff through the continuum of care is what it's all about. And if you click one more time, Tia, it's really those direct connections to an electronic health record system that can help make those seamless transitions happen, so that everyone has the latest, most up-to-date data at the time where they're needing it. And whether they're in a session, whether they're not in a team meeting, wherever they're at, that they have the latest to draw upon. And so excuse me while I catch my breath here. What is this? How do we do this? So really the journey towards this is not just a linear journey that's from here to there. It's actually more of a cycle. And Tia, if you would hit the next slide. You know, it's a dynamic process that we go through to understand where you're at in your current continuum of care and how to improve it. So it starts with by understanding your processes. What are the processes that you have as an organization? There are very many unique and personal ways that each organization has developed to provide a continuum of care for their patients and clients. And does your software adapt that? It really shouldn't be about buying a piece of software that's going to fix it for you. It's about understanding what are the services we want to provide. What have we found to be successful, and how can we model that in an EHR system? So it's really your processes that drive technology instead of the other way around. And then secondly, what are the services or data that you could add to your process that could help you provide better service, that could anticipate needs, that could provide you up-to-date information, that could integrate lab results into your visit, so you have those to draw upon at any time. And understanding those, and then from all of that, creating a prioritized action plan for your organization that says, here are the things that are most important for us to incorporate into our process. And we're going to work on these one at a time until they're in, and when they're done, we'll reassess and come back and do it again. So if you click one more time, Tia, there's a feedback loop here that's really important, that you know, as you create a plan, it's not just a static plan, it's a living plan that moves forward as your organization discovers new needs or priorities. If new data sources come online that could be valuable to your process or to your clients, and constantly evaluating them against your current plan, saying, you know, hey, this new priority is more important than what we have right now, so we're going to move that to the top, and it's going to bump something off, maybe, or reshuffle our priorities. Or maybe it's when you discover some new service and say, hey, that's an intriguing service, but it's not as important as the things we're doing already. Our plan stands as it is. So it's really a great assessment tool for you to use for the continuum of care that you're providing. So this is a really simple process. It can get very intense, but it reminds me a little. This might be some of the same types of processes that are used in therapy, or there's other systems that you can look at for inspiration. Therapy could be one of them. You know, that understanding yourself first, so that you can make change and reinforce that over time with feedback from other people and outside sources. Or you could look at the software world and look at the design process that's used now, that's it's looking for inspiration, it's being nimble, it's being up to date and not being so tied to a plan that you can't adjust when new things come along. I mean, this last 2 years have really shown us that things can change very quickly, and how do we adapt to that? And having a process like this can help you assess and evaluate things as they come along against your plan, and decide whether you want to bring them into your process or not to improve your continuum of care. But that's within your organization. And what does a continuum of care look like at a macro level that it goes across multiple organizations? And Patty's going to talk to us next about that. So Patty, take it away.
Next slide, please, Tia.
Hey, Patty, before you kind of launch into that, I had a quick question. So this is a big, you know, having the infrastructure for members to be able to have an IT plan like this, especially with so many, like Murray was mentioning, so many modernizing and new IT solutions that have to talk to each other, or maybe you're part of a platform that's been enhanced. And I know you guys are really try to provide that consultation, but I find that that's always a hard thing for a lot of our members because they don't have the admin staff to kind of implement this thing. So are you guys both as organizations, and I imagine I've talked to some other folks too who provide different types of services for IT. It seems like that's a growing trend in your sector, that customer service technical assistance support, because especially in behavioral health, we just don't have the staff on hand necessarily to keep up with all of the innovations that are happening. Not to throw you off track too much, but I felt like that.
No, I'll take that, Marie. Yeah, absolutely. I think the field has changed dramatically over the years. And you know, there's a learning curve with organizations and acceptance. As far as a company, EnSoftek, you know, strives to constantly work with their customer base to ensure that the functionality is optimized to meet the needs of the customer, and that's critical. And so accountability and responsiveness, you'll see a lot more of that with EHR vendors, but we really take that to heart. And without that, you know, it's not going to be a successful experience for the providers. And technology changes very quickly, and there's no way that they could stay up on it. And they may just not know. This is maybe an educational component that they need to be aware of, and we need to train them on that so they know how to use the record more effectively, so they become more efficient in what they do. And in doing so, they enhance their continuum of services to their constituents or clients.
Thanks for jumping in there, Scott.
I see
Drew,
Drew.
did you have a question?
Yes, Drew with Morrison Child and Family Services. I'm going to piggyback to interrupting with Heather in that my consistent experience over 3 decades is over-promising and under-delivering. And how can you, in the midst of continuing to give us this information, honestly and bluntly talk to us frankly about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Nice to see you. I think it really starts at the beginning. Establishing a relationship really begins, or partnership, to say, at the beginning of the sales cycle. And it really takes an individual to have critical listening skills, to understand clearly what the provider needs are, you know, to the infinite level. And that does help, if not altogether extinguishes, as you say, Drew, the over-promising, under-deliver. I think, I'm mentioning names, but those EHRs that over-promise, under-deliver have not taken the time to sit down with the customer, to clearly understand the pain points, to clearly understand their processes. And that really speaks to the continuum of care. You know, each program may have different components. You need to know that intimately to move forward. In a successful implementation addresses those issues and corrects those issues, or offers tools that will benefit the provider. So it really starts at the beginning of the sales process, and that is to clearly understand the pain points, what the program requirements are. And it's not just, you know, delivery of services. It may be reporting requirements, it may be regulatory maybe IAG requirements, things of that nature. At the end of the day, it's establishing a relationship, as I said, and at the end of the day, it's establishing a partnership, a true partnership. And partners work together to ensure that there's going to be successful. And unfortunately, in this industry, that has not always been the case. And I'm fortunate, I've been in this industry for 30 years. I'm a clinician by training and administrator, and now I work with EnSoftek as their business development executive. But I do look at it as a way of communication, open communication, and clearly understand those components to have success. I hope that answered your question, Drew.
Not really,
Okay.
because we say we need this. Can your thing do this? Yes, we've got what other organizations do you have that you've done that for? Several. And then when it comes down to actually having the product, it's a different story. So sales are selling, and there just, I think, needs to be more of an integration of those that are actually doing it and can actually have the permission to speak up and say, no, that one would probably be another $15,000, add-on change down the pike. Just be real about it. That's all.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think as a company, we look at any potential partner has to be the right fit, and we must be helpful. So I strive to always keep the highest level of professionalism when I talk to people. And that really stems from honesty. If you can't do something or a function doesn't actually present itself today, we'll work with you to possibly build out for tomorrow. But I think it starts at the beginning, and that means that I'm going to actually show you that in our system, and not just make a blanket promise of emptiness. And so it really does start at the beginning, and develop partnerships has to start with honesty and presentation of what you can and cannot do. And as a company, EnSoftek prides itself in ensuring that we meet those qualities of right fit and being helpful to any customer that we work with. And it's unfortunate in the industry today that it still is prevalent that many of the EHR vendors do overpromise and underdeliver. Tia, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off what Scott was saying. We at OCBH know how important the partnership piece is. And with Dr. Cloud being a preferred partner at OCBH, we took it on ourselves to create a users group. So for any of our members who do use the Dr. Cloud platform, unfortunately, I personally don't have time to run a users group for every EHR that you all use. If I did, I would. But to enable more of that ongoing conversation, to allow our billers to have those troubleshooting moments with those developers at the platform who can address things as they come along, because the partnership doesn't end with the sales pitch, right, Drew? That's the caveat, is it has to be an ongoing partnership where when things come up, you have to work together to solve them. And so we're working very hard to allow that conversation to happen, maybe in a way that it hasn't before for a lot of your organizations. So that is something that we're doing now with Dr. Cloud, and I think it's been very fruitful.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Drew.
Just one thing I would like to add too is I think a lot of times EHR system is looked on as a technology alone, and really it's a process and cultural change for most organizations. It's really something that's going to change an organization from the inside out. And to be honest about that and saying, hey, this is something that's going to change you in ways you may not expect. Let's talk about that. Let's look at understanding your process together and what's going to change, what can't be on the table for change, and how we can work through that together. And whether it's Dr. Cloud EHR or another EHR vendor, you really need to explore that and understand, are the systems in place for feedback, for support, and other things in place after I buy this process and the software, to understand that in the long run, I'm gonna have someone who's going to partner with me and be there and be alongside me as we get to the hard parts of this that are different than anything I've done before as an organization. So it's change management, and that's hard, but it's important. So I see Patty's slide coming up. So Patty.
All right, thanks, Murray. Okay, so today, 50% of patients in the criminal justice case end up in treatment. And so this slide, it may seem a little busy, so I'll just take a second to explain it. So we're gonna walk Carrie, who's the patient, through the system. And if you look at like the top of the slide, towards the red and the orange, that's where the acuity is high. Carrie's acuity is high. She has severe bipolar disorder, and she has an addiction to opioids, to heroin. As you go down, the acuity is lower, the patient is more well. So I wanted to explain that a little bit. On the left is a forensic system of care. The right is, we've got hospitals on the top, we've got residential treatment facilities in the middle, and then outpatient treatments at the bottom. So I'm going to talk through Carrie's journey. So Carrie's incarcerated via 5150 into Deschutes County Jail. This ecosystem that we're using for the illustration purposes is Bend, Oregon. AAA treatment is a made-up treatment center. You guys probably have guessed that. Anyone from Bend or who knows Oregon well? So anyway, Carrie ends up in jail. Over the next 48 hours, she and her attorney decide they're going to go with an insanity defense. So she goes into the Oregon State Hospital to await trial. She goes to trial, and the judge releases her and on probation for 180 days. And her family, she's one of the lucky ones because her family has decided to take her back. I mean, a lot of patients with severe mental illness and addiction problems, they have lost their family. That's one of the first things they lose, but she has not lost hers yet. She goes home and she's going to attend AAA treatment. Was there a question? Okay, I thought I heard something. So this is where like her journey really begins in outpatient treatment. And if you think about throughout this whole system, like the accountability is really tight, right? In all of these systems, I talked about payers. I don't know why it says Patty K instead of Patty Knox, but that's my last name. But anyway, we talk about accountability. Financial accountability is high for all of you in any of these systems. Because you're reporting back to the payers to get reimbursed. She needs to get reimbursed too if she can. There's different laws taking place in the criminal justice system, which actually allow, like in Washington, patients can keep their insurance for the first 29 days now, as of the 25th of this month. So things are changing. But anyway, so she is released, and her parents take her home. And she goes to AAA treatment, IOP. And there, based on what you all have determined are some of the best and most successful programs for someone like Carrie, she will enter into some different strategies and trainings to help her hopefully become more dependent on or independent of treatment and more able to care for herself and move into the next phase of life. So, in outpatient treatment, I keep hearing somebody, does anybody have a question? Okay. So, her lab results entered into her EHR are going to really allow those at AAA treatment to track her health status if she is receiving mental health adherence testing through her lab. That will show if she is staying compliant and adherent to her antipsychotic treatment as well. Cordant Pharmacy provides in-office pharmacy for MAT and mental health products at the time of her visit. She can go in there and see her provider. She goes in and sees her counselor. She does her lab. She picks up her medication right at the same time of her visit. And this allows her to, if she avoid any transportation issues she may have at that point in time, any stigma she may encounter at the local pharmacy, she's able to get her prescription meds there at the time. So the data points really help you guys decide, like, is she going to be able to maintain her sobriety? Is she going to stick to her mental health meds as she kind of graduates after those 180 days, or does she need to continue treatment? So all of these things, you know, working in conjunction with all of the tools that you have help you make the determination for patients like Carrie, and help her have a better, you know, just kind of experience, and hopefully stay out of ever going back to the county jail or the state hospital or prison, even if it's a severe crime. So, thank you so much. Do you have any questions for me at this time? Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Murray.
Thanks, Tia. And thank you, Patty. I think, you know, we're coming up on the end of our time here, so I'm going to try and tie a bow on this. And I'm glad we were able to have conversations in the middle of that, because I would much rather talk about things that are on top of people's mind than go through a presentation. But the most important thing that we're wanting to say is that the continuum of care is the most important thing about it is that we realize that the individual is the common denominator. It's not the providers, it's not the EHR systems, it's not the labs, but all of this is coming together in the service of health for the individuals that are part of the system, and that's our goal. We see partnership. If we could go to the next slide, Tia. I think there's one more animation here. And, you know, yeah, I think we had some good stuff here, but really the goal is individual-centered continuum of care. And if we do an animation here, Tia, and then go to the last slide. The real important thing here is that it's partnership that makes it possible. It's not a technology. It's really a partnership, number one, between the providers and their clients and the individuals they're working with. It's between multiple provider to providers, so the handoffs between different providers can be seamless and smooth. And then working with the technology providers like Cordant or Dr. Cloud EHR or others that can help even make those transitions and handoffs between different providers seamless, and also provide as much knowledge at each point along the way that the individual is receiving the best care possible at the point in their care continuum that they're at. And whether that can be in an individual agency or across multiple agencies, that's the goal. But it comes down to what can you do to understand and make your care continuum the best it can be, and putting your agency in a position where you can connect with other providers to make those transitions happen for individuals. And that's the goal we're all after. That's a big vision, and it's still something that's in process. It's not fully possible right now, and that's the dream. But what can happen, and what we're seeing even through the data that we showed you today, is that this is already happening within agencies. We're excited to see that happen. The groundwork for an even bigger continuum of care that's truly individual centered is on the way. We've seen digital maturity over the last 2 years during COVID go at a pace we never thought possible. And I think there's going to be other things that come along that continue to promote that. And we see the benefits of it and how that can be really used. And it's an exciting time. And we're excited to partner with providers to make that happen. And so Cordant Health Solutions is also. And we appreciate you partnering with us today through the ups and downs of this presentation and going through the technology bobbles we've had. But I'll say thank you on behalf of Dr. Cloud EHR for giving us this time. And Patty, I'll turn it over to you. And you can say the outro for your group.
And I could say what?
Just wrap up for your team.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Sue and I are happy to help. Tony Brickman is also our VR for Oregon. We're happy to help in any way that you need us with your lab, mental health adherence testing, toxicology testing, and the Cordant MET pharmacy program provides not only MET at the time of the patient's visit, but also mental health meds. Really helps. Please let us know if you have any questions. We do have a new pharmacy that just opened up in the PDX area. So we're excited to be able to better serve those treatment centers in Oregon. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you all in the fall. I'll be meeting many of you for the first time there. So thanks again for having us today, Heather and Tia and all of you. We appreciate it.
And we didn't get a Q&A time here at the end, but any one of us would be happy to answer questions about how you can improve the continuum of care or what services we could offer. So thank you for their time today, and we'll look forward to talking to you now or at the fall event.
Heather, thank
Well,
you.
you guys were so fast. We do have time for questions if anybody has them. We have 12 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's do it.
Does anyone have questions about the Cordant pharmacy options or about the continuum of care integration services that Dr. Cloud and Cordant were talking about today?
We were so comprehensive. We covered it all, I guess. Right.
Yeah, well, and Patty, you may want to chat a little bit about the pharmacy and how it actually works on the ground. I think it's pretty intriguing model, and one of the things that we I think is a big discussion around technology and new opportunities is that folks are really using technology and also new different types of pharmacy delivery and changes in rule and things have been impacted. So that would be great to hear a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yes, we have been, we actually started servicing many treatment facilities in Oregon out of our Washington pharmacy over the past year plus. And how it works is the meds are either couriered to the treatment facility or they come via FedEx every single morning. We have pharmacy services coordinator that is a Cordant employee that works on staff. He or she would just need a desk where, he or she could put the computer in a safe. We keep the meds in a safe. And when patients, like I said, they come in to see for their appointment, whether it be for whoever, counselor, provider, they do their lab. If their lab is needed at that time, see their provider, pick up their meds on the way out, and it saves them a trip to the pharmacy where I've heard, especially patients coming out of jail, all they have is their jail ID card and they go into a Walgreens or Bartell's and they are not treated well at all. And some patients are so grateful. I've seen them in tears, honestly, that they can't believe that their meds are actually there waiting for them. At the end of the day, the meds are taken out. And if we have any no-shows, the pharmacy just reverses the script at that time. If the patient had a change in appointment time, we can reroute it so it comes back to the treatment facility that next day. But the meds are never on site. The biggest question I get, and the first question I get from people interested in this program is, well, what about the safe? Like, is it bolted down, or like, do patients ever run off of it? With it in 5 years of doing this program across the United States, I actually think it's more like 6 years. There's never been an incident ever. There never has been an incident. It's just patients are just really not doing that. So that's how it works, and there's no really risk to the clinic, at all, especially since the meds are taken out at the end of each day. So that's how it works, and it's pretty simple. The treatment centers really don't have to do anything. We do like to do a quick in-service with the staff, just kind of letting everybody know what's, how it's going to work and how the flow
is. Strange person with a safe under their desk, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just to let it, because it's like, it's unlike other pharmacies. Sometimes we'll come in and, put in a wall and all that thing. No, it's just, a very simple program, and it works really beautifully. And we now have the ability to do prior auths on the behalf of treatment centers for Vivitrol, and we are also in the middle of licensing for Sublocade. So we will be able to provide that Sublocade in the fall. But we have Vivitrol that we ship in it's refrigerated cooler. We provide that as well. So all MAT, any mental health drugs as well. So it's a beautiful service, and clients love it. There's nobody who started with us that has stopped. It's just really, it's really a great program. And what it does too, is like it reduces no-show rates. So, I mean, any treatment facilities that have, want to reduce no-show rates, and it reduces ER visits for patients. I mean, it just overall, it's good for the patients and the providers that serve them.
I was saying, as a previous director of a children's mental health outpatient program, I wish we would have had access to that at that time, because boy, that would have been great. To have a friendly person with a safe under their desk for families to do one stop instead of numerous stops, and so many issues with pharmacies and stigma and time management and just everything. So thank you for letting people know about that innovative service. I think it's pretty cool. And
do you have written up a flyer about the different medications that are available through the Cordant pharmacy?
Yeah. Do you want me to mail that to you, Tia?
That would be great. And I will distribute that with a copy of today's slides and the link to the recording when I send that up.
Okay, sounds good.
Does anyone have questions at this point?